The sophomore EP from the Manchester-born grime artist Bugzy Malone comes just under a year after the release of his first EP, Walk With Me, a project which did relatively well, peaking at number 8 in the UK charts. With the grime genre having slightly died off in the last couple of years in terms of its commercial standing, many have identified Bugzy as one of the instigators for the revival of the genre, and after listening to this 8-track EP entitled Facing Time, needless to say, this project rivals most albums I've heard this year. Thematically, this EP largely deals with Bugzy's past, which includes brushes with the law, his past criminal activities including involvement with drugs and possibly being implicated in a burglary incident last year, his personal struggles in order to make it into the music industry and his eagerness to leave his past behind him and to focus on his music career. This EP feels highly confessional, and personally I honestly can't help but feel myself fully engaging with what Bugzy spills. Straight out of the gate we get the opening titular track where Bugzy hints back at his criminal past, including said burglary implication, and how he's now trying to look forward and become a success, highlighting along the way that with his newly found fame that it's attracted people who wish to leech off of his grown wealth, the same people who wanted to see the guy fail in the first place. Not only that, but he recognises that with his success he now has a responsibility to better himself and to try not fall back into his old ways. The following track, the chorusless Late Night in the 0161, is a mini vignette where Bugzy relays a chapter in his past where he would go out of his way to make money by whatever means necessary, primarily selling drugs before confessing to smacking someone over the head with a brick after being disrespected. Definitely one of the more darker tracks on the EP, and one where I think Bugzy could have gone a little harder on the delivery. Kinda a similar story on I Suggest, a track where the basic message is that even though he may have made it, Bugzy's still prone to confrontation if required, and that he's not a man you want to mess with, again tapping into a previous occasion where he put someone's name on his quote list after what I can only assume was over someone who got one of his ex-flames pregnant, going by the line, "You ran up in my room and told me that it was his." Then again, I could be wrong. This sentiment again brought up on the song Gone Clear, where Bugzy throws a reminder to all those who still doubt him and think that he's not legit in his promise to body those who choose to oppose him. Simply put, tread carefully because Bugzy won't hold back, regardless of who you are. One of the noticeable emotions that Bugzy conveys startlingly well is determination, and for me it's portrayed best on the song Moving, easily my favourite track on the EP. The overall message is to simply keep moving, and it's conveyed terrifically in the opening monologue. But going further into the track, Bugzy touches upon being at such a low ebb that he was ready to abandon his aspirations before a spell in a young offenders institution gave him the drive not to wind up as a nobody. It's this kind of confessional piece that shows Bugzy as a human being who simply doesn't want to end up as another statistic, and it really does strike the core. Another track that portrays Bugzy's struggles is Beauty and the Beast, where the guy reflects on how his history in selling drugs affected a previous relationship and how she would try her best to hold it together whilst he attempted to make something of himself, but ultimately the strain just got too much for her. A brief mention concerning Bugzy addressing those who create diss tracks against him does get brought up here and there, but most centrally on the track We Don't Care, where Bugzy admits that he could respond to those who create these kind of songs. Instead, he brands it all as irrelevant and spins these tracks as free publicity. And whilst Bugzy's staying true to the grime scene and is making moves overseas, his opposition are just getting by and accuses his dissenters as bandwagon jumpers. Admittedly, this is where the EP could have ended on a sour note, but Bugzy actually keeps things rather amicable, all things considered. I would be lying if I didn't say that everything here was strong. The song Mosh Gang is hands down my least favourite track on the entire project. The title is pretty much what you expect, and I guess Bugzy wanted to do something a bit light in comparison and have a bit more fun, but the inclusion of this song on such an open project does feel very odd. Also, the overall presentation doesn't exactly strike up the desire to just clatter the fuck into other people. Instrumentally, whilst the large portion of tracks do come complete with the atypical electronic drum beats and rattling hi-hats, there are a few moments that do give some tracks an individual flavour to them. Whilst I recognise Mosh Gang as my least favourite track, the combination of strings and horns providing a staccato rhythm are highly enjoyable, even if it doesn't fit with the theme. I like the synth melody on We Don't Care, but would have appreciated a more prominent appearance from the more high-pitched keyboard as opposed to the washed out synth. Gone Clear's attempt at an eerie vibe works in the opening, but the warbled deep bass leaves an almost drunken woozy feeling that doesn't settle fully with me, which is kinda strange because it's almost the same story on Beauty and the Beast, but it's more controlled, and the inclusion of a piano and keyboard synth anchors the song nicely. The electric guitar on I Suggest has a decent rock nature to it, and I would have loved it to have gone a bit harder. The combination of strings, synth bass and melody on Moving is highly soothing, and it's the best instrumentation found here, and the opener Facing Time uses the string arrangement all throughout to provide a rather somber aura. If I'm being honest, I think what a few tracks are missing overall is a solid bass line to really root these songs down and give them a thicker texture. and it's most noticeable on the song Late Night in the 0161. Overall, this is just a great EP. The majority of the lyrics are highly personal and have a great underlying theme. The integration of strings, horns, guitars and keyboards give the tracks texture, where otherwise they would become another bunch of humdrum drum and bass songs, and Malone's delivery has a particular calming nature, yet manages to maintain a certain menace in some areas. I think a little more rawness in delivery and introducing some thick bass lines would have given some tracks a much needed heaviness, but I can't deny that there's plenty to like about this EP and it has plenty of repeat value. Overall, I score this EP an 84 out of 100.